Big trade in the NFC West today. Division coming off of a season where it could call itself the greatest division in NFC or even NFL history. And now we get to talk about the arms race moving forward. Will this guy be on the 49ers roster for their push to take back the division in 2026? That's Mac Jones jumping into the water in Cabo. That's off of George Kittle's Instagram. Look, there's Trent Williams on George Kittle's Instagram alongside Jake Brendel and Kittle himself. You could see with the boot on his right Achilles. And we've got Trent Williams and George Kittle again down in Cabo. Just thought that Trent is somebody that we could talk about right now as we pivot our discussion toward free agency, because that is a contractual piece of business that the 49ers are going to have to resolve sooner rather than later, since they have that $10 million bonus scheduled to kick in within the course of the next month. But today, interesting stuff. Alec Pierce, the wide receiver of the Indianapolis Colts, confirmed that he's going to test free agency. And as you can tell on our roster, definitely a spot for Alec Pierce on this football team, because the one position group where the 49ers do not have a foundational pillar, there's only one position group on offense and defense where the 49ers don't have one right now, is the wide receiver room. That's because Brandon Ayuk did not come through for the 49ers. So Alec Pierce of the Colts, somebody who was not tagged by the Indianapolis Colts. Remember that. They had to use the transition tag on Daniel Jones. Alec Pierce himself today on the Kay Adams show said that he likes Indianapolis, but he wants to go see what might be out there for him in free agency. The fact that they were not able to use a tag on Alec Pierce means that he can listen to offers from other teams, and the 49ers will certainly be involved in that sweepstakes. Really fast receiver, tall receiver, good blocker, checks a lot of boxes for the 49ers. The receiver market is going to be fascinating to me, and we've got the roster builder too that we can look at here in a little bit, but I just wanted to look at the 49ers 53-man projection to begin. Obviously, you have Pearsall, but Pearsall, to me, if Pearsall can play the Z for the 49ers, I think that is the best case scenario. I think he'll be their most productive receiver next year, but I really, really would like to see somebody like Alec Pierce, if I'm the 49ers, in the X position for the blocking purposes in this Kyle Shanahan offense that really, the 49ers struggled in that regard last year, blocking out on the perimeter. They need to become better when it does come to that. And then that third wide receiver spot, well, that's up in the air. That's why I don't think that Juwan Jennings will fit back with this football team, because he's definitely going to command at least $15 million. Now, at under $15 million, you could say, okay, perfect, wide receiver 3. But at over $15 million, geez, that's a really, really tough sell for a team that is tight on salary cap space, trying to make things financially work in the future. I mean, I was texting with Mike about this. The whole Trent Williams scenario, the 49ers need to make sure that they can get Trent Williams at the right price. And I know it's a tough needle to thread, but it could be very damaging for this team's long-term prospects if they do have Trent Williams, but at the wrong price, locked in for the next 2 years. Because if it's at too high of a price and it starts compromising your ability to retain and sign players in the next couple of years, well, for a player who's going to be 38 years old this year, that's a slide downward for the 49ers roster-wise. So everything that San Francisco does here over the course of the next couple of weeks, it's going to be in a magnifying glass, because we're talking about free agency and we're talking about the spending of a team that has dished out more A-list contracts than anybody else over the course of the past 10 years. And we're also dealing with a team that's trying to get younger, but also trying to preserve the window of some of these A-list pillars who are on the older end of the spectrum. It is a delicate needle to thread for the 49ers, and it's all ends up being tied together. The money that they are able to save through a good Trent Williams negotiation could potentially be allocated to the receiver room and Alec Pierce. And then there's the defensive side of the ball where the 49ers, I told you guys this about a month ago, we'll say it again, they're definitely going to target John Franklin Myers. Former Robert Saleh guy with the New York Jets. Now he's with the Denver Broncos, defensive tackle. Imagine this defensive tackle room if John Franklin Myers was able to mix in with CJ West and Alfred Collins. I think there's a definite spot for him in this rotation. I think that you look at West and Collins as two guys who are run stoppers first right now, developing their pass rushing skills. John Franklin Myers is a pass rusher first who can also play the run on a 3-down level. That could immediately turbocharge this 49ers defense. And we talk about an arms race. Well, the Rams today, they traded for Trent McDuffie, who, the Rams, they gave up something close to a 40% explosive pass rate week 13 onward this past season. I mean, we talk about the special teams being a big issue for the Rams. The Rams pass defense and their cornerbacks especially were a big problem down the stretch of the 2025 season. They needed to address that. I think anybody with a brain, anybody with two eyes and a brain who had watched the Rams said that they're going to try to attack the cornerback position, and they attacked it particularly aggressively with this trade for Trent McDuffie. From the Kansas City Chiefs perspective, it seems similar to what they did when they traded Tyreek Hill away a few seasons ago to the Miami Dolphins. A lot of draft capital in return, maybe not quite as big of a return here for McDuffie, but it's somebody who was entering his fifth-year option season, kind of like L'Jarius Sneed when or maybe that wasn't a fifth-year option. That was a franchise tag, but it was a tag and trade for the Chiefs to the Tennessee Titans. They love operating this way. They love just restocking the cupboard with draft picks. And we know that the Rams love operating this way. We know that they love saying F those picks or F them picks and going to work with veteran stars whom they acquire with that draft capital. And both the Chiefs and the Rams have seen success with those respective strategies, and those two respective strategies happen to meet perfectly for a trade to get done today. So who's going to win this trade? Well, that's TBD. A lot of emotional fans on the internet today immediately proclaiming the Rams winners because the Rams are the ones that obviously on paper immediately benefit from their defense picking up a veteran, an all-pro cornerback in Trent McDuffie. But there's also a cost for the Rams, and it's number 29. It's a couple picks later in this draft, and I think a 5th rounder and a 6th rounder, and then a 3rd rounder in 2027. So the cost is definitely not zero. And the Rams, I think, need more than one player to improve what was a tremendously leaky pass defense down the stretch of the 2025 season. So I'm very interested to see how they continue building this. I think that Trent McDuffie is a really good player. I think he's been intertwined with the 49ers because of the work that he did in the Super Bowl in 2023. I think the Rams have cherished defensive adaptability for a long, long time, going back to probably even the Wade Phillips days. But Brandon Staley, when he came aboard in 2020, had Jalen Ramsey really moving around. With Trent McDuffie, he played 600 snaps outside, 300 snaps in the slot last year. He was a full-time or close to full-time slot guy in 2023. He lines up on both sides of the field. It's about even between left cornerback and right cornerback. He can follow a receiver around. He's done that before. So with JSN and the Seattle Seahawks, look out. That could be a hell of a matchup. We'll see now who the 49ers counter with on their receiving end. I mean, I opened the show talking about Alec Pierce and his speed. That could really open some things up for the 49ers. If you can pair Pierce with Pearsall, all of a sudden, I mean, you've got two guys who can separate in that 49ers receiving room, and then you got the matchups with Trent McDuffie and the Rams and that great Seattle Seahawks defense as well. I mean, this division is great. It's great for a reason because there are already a lot of good players in the NFC West. So This is what the 49ers are working with, entering what is going to be a fascinating couple of weeks. And, maybe some of the intrigue starts earlier as we wait for resolution in this Trent Williams situation. On the John Franklin Myers front, we know the 49ers are going to be in on this. Not only did San Francisco have a league low 20 sacks last year, they had a league low in sacks from the defensive tackle position. And this has been an ongoing problem for the 49ers to the point where they have signed a big money defensive tackle in the past in Javon Hargrave in 2023. And Hargrave gave him some juice on the inside. We can't pretend that it was a wholly unproductive signing, but he did deal with injuries, especially the torn pectoral muscle in 2024 that sidelined him for the rest of his 49ers tenure. And he wasn't great against the run. The reason the 49ers scrapped the interior and the exterior last year outside of Nick Bosa of that defensive line, I mean, the main reason they let go of Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, Leonard Floyd, was because they needed to fix the run defense first. It's like you're building a grand skyscraper. They had to dig down into bedrock first to make sure the building was stable, because the 2024 49ers, they actually weren't terrible pass rushers, but they were terrible in run defense. So since the foundation wasn't there, it didn't matter how nice the skyscraper was. It just collapsed. So they realized we have to, really, really be diligent about building into bedrock, unlike the Millennium Tower in downtown San Francisco, the one that's sinking. But they had to dig into bedrock, and they did it by going after rookie run defense specialists, starting with Trent Williams, who plays some inside, going to Alfred Collins, going to CJ West in the 4th round. I think that they made major, major strides with those guys in combating the run. I always go back to the one stat. When Michael was healthy, this team was a top 10 run defense, number 6 in the NFL. He's going to be healthy again. They're going to get him back from the ACL tear. But they still lagged far behind when it came to the pass rush coming from especially the interior of the defensive line. So now it's time. If you're the 49ers, now it's time to bolster the interior pass rush. And somebody that you could definitely bolster it with is John Franklin Myers. This is a player who has racked up sacks over the course of his career, and I think would be the right target for San Francisco at an especially unique time for this defense. I was listening to Rand Carthon talk at the NFL Combine. That is the former 49ers personnel executive who became the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. He's no longer with the Titans, so he was able to speak on the 49ers, and he was making a bunch of predictions about where the 49ers would target their fire, so to speak, here coming up in free agency. And he started off with the wide receiver position. I think that much is obvious. The 49ers need better separators. Now they have a very good cornerback to contend with in Trent McDuffie with the Rams. But he also started to really talk about the defense, Rand Carthon did. And he said, I'm not really sure the type of player the 49ers are going to go after, because I'm not exactly sure what Raheem Morris is going to want to run. He's run some of the 49ers scheme in the past. He even worked with Jeff Ulbrich, who had worked with Robert Saleh in New York last year with the Falcons. You could trace Raheem Morris all the way back to 4-down cover Tampa 2 stuff with the Buccaneers back at the start of his NFL coaching career when he was in the same position room as John Lynch, the player. But then, we talk about the Rams and Jalen Ramsey and the star position. And, they traded for Trent McDuffie today to be able to play across the formation of their defensive backfield. And you realize that Raheem Morris was the defensive coordinator of the Rams from 2021 to 2023. And they were running a 3-down front, and that was a Fangio type of system, descendant of what the 49ers ran under Jim Harbaugh and Vic Fangio. Brandon Staley was the intermediary there between Fangio and Raheem Morris. And then anyway, Rand Carthon made the point that you've got to see what Raheem Morris is going to run with San Francisco now. Because the 49ers probably are not going to change their entire scheme. John Lynch essentially confirmed that when he spoke to us last week at the NFL Scouting Combine. But I think there's going to be a whole lot more variation there. I personally think there's going to be a whole lot more five-man stuff there up front. What are the coverage changes going to look like? I mean, when Rand Carthon was talking, he made it sound like a foregone conclusion that the 49ers would add another cornerback. And he said, you can't have enough corners. I get it. So I think the 49ers are going to try to spruce up that defensive backfield. But at what exactly is Raheem Morris going to want in that defensive backfield? What type of safety is he going to want? Is he going to be okay with what the 49ers already have, or is he going to want to press the upgrade button on that position? We know for a fact that the 49ers need to hit the upgrade button at defensive tackle, pass rushing wise. And I think that John Franklin Myers bridges that gap between Robert Saleh and Raheem Morris perfectly, because he played for Robert Saleh with the New York Jets for several seasons. So we know that there's a lot in common with what the 49ers are trying to run with Chris Kasarik. And we know that he's been in different defenses as well, most recently with the Denver Broncos and a really, really good unit this past season. So, and John Franklin Myers, far before that, I think this was back in 2018. So this is before the Brandon Staley era with the Rams, but he was with the Rams. I think he entered the league with the Rams. So I just think it's a perfect bridge between Saleh and Morris. John Franklin Myers, a player who is good enough to fit into both of these systems, 288 pounds, a little bit lighter, really good pass rusher, but can also play the run. And the reason that he could definitely fit with the 49ers, the main one, atop of everything, is because of the players that they've surrounded John Franklin Myers with. If you have a West, you have a Collins, you have a Micah Williams, of course, if you have a Nick Bosa, you've got guys who can stop the run. You can let John Franklin Myers go after the passer from the interior. We also have to figure out what the 49ers are going to do with Bryce Huff. So many different questions that we have for how the 49ers construct this team over the course of this offseason. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that they've got some money to spend. They don't have to go crazy with the spending. It's smarter to build a team through the NFL draft. But sometimes you've got to figure out how to cut the line, so to speak. Get some veterans in there who can impact you right away. That's exactly what the Rams were able to do today with Trent McDuffie. And the 49ers have been aggressive traders over the years under John Lynch as well. Here's the roster builder. I know that I'm talking about this a lot, but if you haven't had a chance to use it yet, the Build Your Own Roster is up on the San Francisco Standard. And as I talk about a lot of this stuff, the Build Your Own Roster is just something great to put up on the screen, because we can truly visualize how all of these moves would affect the 49ers salary cap situation. As guys are signed around the league, as new guys become part of this list, if guys are cut, I will modify this spreadsheet, and maybe we can even get Mike to share this into the description. But I'm talking about Alec Pierce. That's right here. It's going to be expensive to get Alec Pierce. You could probably backload his contract, but just to illustrate the price of this, I mean, this is going to be a $25 to $30 million player per year. And then at defensive tackle right here, top option on the board, John Franklin Myers. Probably two guys who would command sizable contracts into the future. Pierce a little bit younger than Franklin Myers, both on the right side of 30, though, for the 49ers, and both would be damn near A-list players on both sides of the ball. I mean, say that you got both of these guys if you're San Francisco. You'd slot in John Franklin Myers right here instead of CJ West, and you'd move West back here. Myers would be a yellow A-list pillar of the 49ers, and Alec Pierce would be slotted in here to the receiver room, and I think that you'd be paying him probably as an A-list pillar. So the 49ers are going to be involved in both of those negotiations here, assuming both of those guys do reach free agency, and a whole heck of a lot of other players that we can talk about as well. That's just part of the glory of this time of the year, is that you never know exactly which way it is going to shake out. See if Mike has anything to say. Nothing from Mike, so I'm going to go into the comment section, see if you guys have any good questions. Any news on if the 49ers have reached out to Joey Bosa? The 49ers will be interested in Bosa for sure. They were interested in him last year. I think they were willing to pay about $10 million to Joey Bosa last year, signed for $13 million with the Buffalo Bills. Romeo, I think you're asking about Romeo Doubs, not Josh Dobbs. Romeo Doubs, they can't be in touch with, technically they can't be in touch with either of these guys yet because they're still under contract with their previous teams. That's what the legal tampering window means. On March 9th, the 49ers and all of these players can start talking, and then you could officially sign them on March 11th. The Seahawks are not tagging Kenneth Walker. I mean, Walker's going to be expensive. I honestly think that the best cost-efficient pairing with Christian McCaffrey would be Kenneth Gainwell of the Steelers. But yes, Walker is going to be available if the Seahawks don't re-sign him. Could the 49ers go after Murray? Kyler Murray for QB3? No, I don't think so. I don't think that he's going to be released, so he's going to be able to sign with whomever offers him a contract. And because the Cardinals are guaranteeing him money, it's going to be a veteran minimum thing. But I don't think Kyler Murray wants to sign on somewhere to be behind Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. I think both of those guys are better than Kyler Murray. I think Kyler's going to want to go to a team where he would have a chance to play and to start. And the 49ers had the best quarterback room in the league, so he wouldn't just sign there. I mean, I'm sure the 49ers would welcome a QB3 starter being paid tens of millions of dollars by a division rival, that they would only have to pay the veteran league minimum, but I don't think that Kyler Murray would be amenable to such a setup. Another question here from Natasha. Since the Pats let go of Diggs, it is possible the 49ers go after Diggs. I think they need to get more explosive at wide receiver. I don't know if Stephon Diggs at this age of his career, and now he's got some legal issues too. Stephon Diggs is 32 years old. I don't know if you're necessarily getting more explosive and creating more separation ability with a receiver who'll turn 33 on November 29th of next season. So I would say no to that. Good evening. Thank you for the note. Appreciate it. See that everybody's filing in here on this Wednesday evening. Today, obviously, the McDuffie trade happened early, and then we learned about the Alec Pierce quote on the Up and Adams show. You know, the one thing with Alec Pierce, you assume that the Colts are going to put together a good offer to try to re-sign him. The fact they couldn't use the tag means they can't force him to sign anything, right? They can't force him to play for them this year. So, when he said this morning that he wants to check out what's out there in free agency, okay, bidding war can be on. And, you know, that could have trickle-down effects to the rest of the receiving room. You want me to add Sky Moore? That's a good idea, actually. I don't think I have Sky Moore on the roster builder because I didn't have a spot for kick returner. I had the spot for receivers. And he would be a receiver. I'm going to add Sky Moore to the roster builder. That's a good call out. Curtis Rourke at QB3. Probably. I mean, in all likelihood, what you do is you keep Mac Jones unless you get blown away by an insane offer, because Mac is, I mean, he was a top 10 QBR guy last year. Brock is one of the best in the game at QB1. And Curtis Rourke can continue to be groomed into the system as your 3. And you probably prefer that to having Kyler Murray as your QB3, to be honest. Not like Kyler Murray would be interested in sitting behind Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. I think the chances are very good that Eddie Pinheiro gets re-signed. I think that is his preference. That is obviously the 49ers' preference. Eddie might want to test the waters of free agency just to see how much is being offered to him. But the 49ers need to be very, very diligent to make sure that they don't open up the door to any slippage at kicker, because they improved in the number 2 special teams unit in all football last year, largely on the prowess of Eddie Pinheiro's leg. Yetur Gross-Matos, he wasn't, the 49ers didn't get enough games out of him over the past couple of years. A lot of injury issues. They love the talent of the player, the outside in ability. Would they be interested in a reunion at a low price? Sure. I would like to see what they can do in the rest of free agency before then. Today it was confirmed, essentially, this is something we said last week, that they're not bringing back Chase Lucas on a restricted free agent tender. Maybe you bring him back at a lower price, but a lot of these guys that were fairly key parts of the team last year who are entering either restricted free agency or unrestricted free agency, you can first probe the opening of free agency here on March 9th to see if you can hit the upgrade button even at some of these depth spots. And so I think about Chase Lucas. I think about YGM, Yetur Gross-Matos. And then, if just depending on how the market works and who you get and what Raheem Morris wants, the new defensive coordinator, there might still be some guys available 4 or 5 days in, and you could maybe swoop in at a good rate. I mean, none of this is firmly predictable, right? How the market is going to shake out. But I do think that the 49ers are ready to hit the upgrade button and the reliability button at several different positions. And Yetur Gross-Matos, as good of an interior pass rusher as he was, as good of he made one of the best plays of the year when he closed out on Caleb Williams on the game-winning play against the Chicago Bears. Like, as fun as that play was and as electric as some of his contributions were, he was ranking top 5 in some of that interior pressure rate early in the season. Availability is the best ability, and the 49ers have to make sure this next year that they are maximizing their chances of fielding an available and healthy roster. Tonjes, he'll get a restricted free agent tender. I would be shocked if he didn't. And the deadline for that is going to be the start of the new league year on March 11th. Nicole asks, how about a first and a fourth 2026 and a third round pick in 2027 for Max Crosby? I don't know. Ask the Raiders. The Raiders are the ones that have to say yes to any trade proposal. So I think that the Raiders want 2 first round picks. I think that other teams don't want to pay that much. I don't know what the exact offers and discussions are from other teams. I don't know what the Raiders' exact deadline is. But right now, obviously, there is an impasse there between how much the Raiders are asking and how much other teams like the 49ers would be willing to pay. You'd rather have Hendrickson or even go the cheaper route and sign Joey Bosa? Well, here's the thing. Like, Hendrickson and Bosa, both obviously in their primes were tip-top level players, right? Hendrickson may be closer to his prime, but Hendrickson is coming off of a core muscle surgery and Bosa's coming off of a healthy season. I think Hendrickson will probably command more money. Hendrickson will probably be somewhere in the 20 million range. Joey Bosa, where's he going to be? 10 million again? Does the healthy season last year bolster his market? We got to let it all play out. But this could be the year that the 49ers get those Bosa brothers together. That's for sure. I do think it is a possibility. You think Crosby's knee is compromised? I wouldn't want him for that much, says Ryan. Well, I don't have access to Max Crosby's medical files. I do know that he hasn't been as productive in the sack column over the past couple of years as he had been in his prime, but it's hard to differentiate, right? Just watching Max Crosby highlight tapes, like if this is the fault of the Raiders or if this is the fault of him slowing down. That might be part of why some teams don't want to trade as much as the Green Bay Packers traded for Micah Parsons last year. I'm guessing this is in response to the 49ers potentially signing Joey Bosa. Let's not build this team off family ties. If the 49ers signed Joey Bosa, it wouldn't be because of the family ties. It would be because this is a good pass rusher that they could get at a bargain rate. Again, last year they were willing to go up to about $10 million for Joey Bosa. I think it would have been worth it. I think they would have been happy to have Joey at 10. Now, Joey at 13 for the Bills, especially in the 49ers cost structure, just given all the other guys they have to pay, that probably would have hurt the football team. That might not have paid off for the 49ers. So it probably was good that they stuck to their price plan in that case last year. I mean, these are all tricky decisions to calculate and to make. You've got to find the value of each player, and then even then you are taking a risk. That's why I build the roster builder here. This is how you can construct your 49ers team. You can value players. You can decide. You can have the satisfaction of cutting Brandon Ayuk, by the way, just like this. Check the box. But it's one of those things where there is no clear-cut right or wrong answer in the moment of free agency. You do your best to play the probabilities and look at historical performance and project future performance. And then, you see if you win the signing down the road. Kind of like how we'll see, will the Rams or will the Chiefs win the Trent McDuffie signing or trade? We don't know, but both of these teams have been diametrically opposed philosophically when it comes to trading and trading players away. The Chiefs have loved to trade guys away for more draft capital. The Rams have loved to trade draft capital away for more guys. The Chiefs have won more Super Bowls recently than the Rams, but both have been highly successful NFL teams. Today, they traded with each other. Awesome stuff if you're a football fan, if you like the strategy of this. And we can't possibly firmly judge how this trade is going to go down as a success or a failure for the Rams and the Chiefs at the moment that it's happened. It typically takes at least a season, probably 2 seasons, for us to have a better idea. Everybody was freaking out when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill away a few years ago. The Chiefs ended up winning that trade. So, I mean, this league is not easy to handicap. It is not easy to predict. Barry asks, who did the 49ers trade for that was good? Barry, have you heard of Christian McCaffrey? Have you heard of Trent Williams? Those are 2 guys who are going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. I don't know about you, but I think that means they're good players. The 49ers traded for both of those guys. Prior to that, the 49ers traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, who was good. Not prior to Jimmy Garoppolo, but after Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers traded for Dee Ford, who was a good player. Unfortunately, the injuries caught up to him. They traded for Jordan Willis, who helped the 49ers win a huge upset in the playoffs on the road in 2020. He was the hero of that game in many ways. That was a trade the 49ers made. They traded for Charles Omenihu, who was good. That was in 2021. They traded for, my memory right now is, I'm having to really dig deep into the archives. Just this past season, they traded for Sky Moore, who was good. They traded for Keon White, who was good. Let's see. A lot of trades. And it seems that most of the guys the 49ers have traded for have been good. So for somebody to ask, who have they traded for that was good, when Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey are on that list, just seems ridiculous to me, but to each his own. I don't know what Sky Moore's salary cap hit will be. He hadn't been signed yet to the 49ers. He is a pending free agent at this point. So we'll find out when he actually signs his contract. Chase Young. Now, I don't know if Chase Young was the run defender that the 49ers hoped he would be, but he did give him some more pass rushing juice. I mean, if you want to look at value returned for a trade in the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era, the least value the 49ers probably got in return for a trade was for Chase Young. That probably was the worst trade of the Shanahan Lynch era. If I had to rank the trades by value, I would have to say third round pick for Chase Young in 2023 is down at the bottom of that list. Because these other trades have all yielded the 49ers something. I mean, they traded for Brian Robinson Jr. I thought he was a good runner. Wasn't a great receiver out of the backfield. Never really was integrated in that way, but helped the team, was a critical part of what the 49ers were doing, especially down the stretch when they needed to spell Christian McCaffrey a little bit. All these other trades have brought the 49ers some serious, I think, positive value, even the ones that didn't cost a whole lot, like the pick swap for Jordan Willis in the 7th round or whatever it was. But he helped win the 49ers a playoff game with the block kick and the block punt. Jimmy Garoppolo brought the 49ers tremendous value, 2nd round pick. I mean, he was the starting quarterback for a while, won a ton of games for the 49ers. 2 thumbs up on that one. McCaffrey has brought them immense value. Trent Williams, immense value. I mean, these are all great trades that the 49ers made. So in general, that they have been on top of it in a positive way when they made these trades. But the one that didn't really pay off big for San Francisco, even though they invested quite a lot, I think a 3rd round pick is significant, was Chase Young in 2023. Yeah, put some respect on Jimmy G's name. He's a good quarterback. He played a good quarterback position for the 49ers. You could say he was great in 2017 before the ACL tear. He had some really, really sizzling stretches even after the ACL tear, but in general, he was good. He played the position extremely efficiently for the 49ers. And thankfully for them, he built the bridge to Brock Purdy, because Trey Lance was terrible. And he also got hurt in 2022. So they needed somebody to build that bridge from Lance to Purdy in week 13. And that ended up being Jimmy Garoppolo. Nick says, I know it's about free agency and trades right now, but what about the draft? Well, what about the draft? I don't know what you want me to say. Free agency and trades come first, because you don't want to enter the draft totally desperate at every single position of need. You'd like to fill some of that before the draft, so that way the draft is a crapshoot. You know, anybody who tries to speak to you authoritatively that they know exactly what's going to happen at the draft, like mock drafts make me laugh when somebody says, this is who the 49ers are going to pick at number 27. You don't know who they're going to pick at number 27. The analogy I like to use is that, like, okay, the 49ers play the Rams in Melbourne, Australia on September 10th or whenever it's going to be. I don't know if they have the exact date yet. What if somebody asked you, what play will Kyle Shanahan call on the 27th play of the game when the 49ers play the Rams in week 1 at Melbourne? That's very similar to asking who the 49ers are going to pick at pick number 27. You don't know who's going to be on the board. You don't know which trades are going to be made. You don't know how things are going to develop. At this point, you don't even know who the 49ers are going to sign in free agency, who they might trade for before the draft. So many different variables that have to be checked off of a list that actually have to trigger before the 49ers come onto the clock at number 27, assuming they don't trade pick number 27 away. How can you possibly seriously predict what they're going to do in number 27? So when people ask me about the NFL draft right now, it's like, let's get through free agency first. Then maybe we have some of the variables checked off so we can have a little bit better idea of which direction this is going to go. We got some respect for Eddie Pinheiro. I like to see that. He was a very good kicker for the 49ers. I'm using a new laptop today. Hopefully that means it's nice and crisp. I know we'd had some delay issues in the past. But anyway, good stuff. I think it's time for me to go get some rest. My goal was to go 40 minutes. I've gone 40 minutes. Everybody hit that subscribe button. Everybody go check out the roster builder. It is up on the San Francisco Standard. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and do whatever else you need to. We will talk to you tomorrow morning.